My father arranged a marriage for me with the scholar Xia Wenzhou. At that time, I didn't know he already had someone in his heart. Later, my father was wrongfully imprisoned and sentenced to exile in County L. He brought back his childhood sweetheart, saying he wanted to marry her as a secondary wife. My mother-in-law reprimanded me. "You've been married for 3 years without bearing a child. Do you still not allow my son to marry again?" Xia Wenzhou mocked me. "You no longer have any support, stop making a fuss." He didn't know. I still have the divorce letter he wrote in a fit of anger. "In 7 days, I will go to County L with my father." Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. The day my father was imprisoned, Xia Wenzhou brought back his newly divorced childhood sweetheart. He came to my courtyard and indifferently informed me. "In 7 days, I will marry Xia as a secondary wife. I have wronged her too much. Even if you are unwilling, you must endure it for now." My father had just been imprisoned. He didn't want to wait even a day. I looked up at him. His gaze was as cold as ice that hasn't melted in early spring. Not a trace of affection could be seen. After 3 years of marriage, I still couldn't move him. I turned my head in haste to hide my sorrow. "All right. Anyway, I am about to leave. It doesn't matter who he brings into the house." Xia Wenzhou was slightly surprised. His lips moved slightly, but he said nothing. He was always sparing with words when it came to me. After he left, I opened the jewelry box and took out a piece of paper from beneath the jewelry. It was the divorce letter Xia Wenzhou wrote for me 3 years ago. It had his signature and fingerprint on it. All I needed to do was submit it to the authorities, and we could part ways peacefully. 3 years ago at the spring banquet, I fell in love at first sight with Xia Wenzhou, the scholar who ranked 3rd in the imperial examination. Within 3 days, he sent someone to propose marriage to me. I thought it was a match made in heaven. Until the news of Song Xia's marriage reached the capital. That day, Xia Wenzhou drank heavily and got drunk. I made him a bowl of sobering soup and took it to the study. He was slumped over the desk, his eyes red, calling my name, Pei Susu. I thought he needed me and quickly stepped forward. But he picked up the paperweight and threw it to the ground. The ceramic paperweight landed heavily at the hem of my skirt. Shards of porcelain scattered everywhere. I was so shocked that my heart skipped a beat. Xia Wenzhou, usually gentle and refined, gritted his teeth. "Pei Susu, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you fancying me, if it weren't for your father being the minister of personnel, how would I be forced to marry you? How would I have to watch Xia marry someone else?" His tone was full of immense hatred. It turns out, what I thought was harmonious was just my own dream. A breath was caught in my chest. It wouldn't go up or down. It made me cry uncontrollably. Xia Wenzhou staggered to his feet, picked up a pen, and hastily wrote a letter of divorce. Signed it, pressed his fingerprint. Then he tossed that flimsy piece of paper over. He said, "I want to divorce you and bring Xia back." He was very drunk. Even said such things. I suppressed my emotions and choked out, "You're drunk. Let's talk when you sober up." I picked up the paper, turned, and walked out, closing the door. Tears flowed down my cheeks like a river breaking its banks. I returned to the courtyard alone. The night wind was very cold, but it couldn't clear my mind. The next day, Xia Wenzhou sobered up and treated me with his usual warmth and courtesy. He didn't mention Song Xia again. Nor did he mention divorce. I placed that piece of paper at the bottom of my dressing table. Deceiving myself. Xia Wenzhou's beloved has already married someone else. I have a long future ahead with him. Song Xia married the wrong person. 2 months ago, Xia Wenzhou personally wrote a letter to the county's magistrate to help her get a divorce. He felt sorry for her being alone and destitute, so he brought her to the capital for settlement. Now, he is about to welcome her into the mansion as a secondary wife. When Xia Wenzhou brought Song Xia to see me, I was counting my dowry. When I married Xia Wenzhou, I brought 80 chests of dowry. Now I need to count them one by one, exchange them for silver notes, and use them to arrange things in prison. Xia Wenzhou stepped into the room. I put away the booklet and stood up. He said, "Xia wants to live in this courtyard, you should vacate it." His voice was cold and decisive, leaving no room for negotiation. This courtyard is the closest to Xiao Wenzhou's residence. The garden is full of blooming flowers, including the crabapple tree he planted himself. Under the wisteria trellis, there is the swing he built for me when we were newlyweds. Song Xie stood behind him, shyly peeking out her head, revealing a pair of apricot eyes filled with envy. I raised my eyes and for the first time refused him. No. The official residence is large enough, it's not that there isn't a place for her to stay, why must it be here? She tugged at Xiao Wenzhou's sleeve, a bit displeased. Xiao Wenzhou's face darkened, because Xie likes it. Because the crabapple flowers here were originally planted for her. So, this place was prepared for Song Xie from the beginning. Song Xie smiled at me. Her smile was gentle, like the weeping crabapple growing by the gray bricks and black tiles. I stared at her. Xiao Wenzhou shielded her behind him, his tone icy. You should move out today. Be good, don't make things difficult for everyone. I lowered my eyelashes and said softly, all right. My father is already in prison. My greatest support is gone. Xiao Wenzhou no longer needs to treat me with respect and courtesy. Before dusk, I moved to a secluded small courtyard. Then I took out the jewelry Xiao Wenzhou had previously given me and went to the treasure pavilion to sell them. I once spent lavishly here. The proprietress saw me and smiled as she led me into a private room. I laid out the items one by one on the table. The first item was a pair of gold hairpins Xiao Wenzhou gave me when he proposed. At that time, he had just passed the imperial exam, with nothing but the clothes on his back, and used all his savings to make these small and exquisite hairpins for me. The second item was a jade bracelet he bought for me with his salary, after being promoted to officer of the Ministry of Personnel. The third item was a hair ornament he gave me as an apology after a drunken mishap. I loved wearing this hair ornament and running to him, the beads on it jingling. And he would laugh and hold me in his arms, saying I was always carefree, unlike those dignified ladies. The proprietress widened her eyes. These seem to be what Lord Xie bought here a few years ago. Are you really going to sell them, madam? I said, indeed. She carefully examined the jewelry and finally handed me a silver note. I wasn't good at bargaining, so I took the silver note and walked out. Outside was bustling. I heard Xiao Wenzhou's voice, filled with indulgent laughter. Do you like this hairpin? Song Xie shyly replied, I do. Xiao Wenzhou then bought it for her without hesitation. As he paid, he looked up and saw me, his gaze slightly surprised. He instinctively looked at my wrist. The jade bracelet I used to never take off was gone. Xiao Wenzhou put down the silver coins in his hand, grabbed my wrist, and stared into my eyes. Pei Susu, where is your bracelet? I turned my head away, avoiding his gaze, and lied effortlessly, I'm not wearing it. His face showed anger, and he tightened his grip, causing me to frown in pain. Song Xie hurriedly tugged at his sleeve, Wenzhou. He then seemed to come to his senses and released his grip. He smiled at her, dazed. I was out of line just now. Under the varied gazes of the crowd, I left alone. On the second day of preparing to leave, my mother-in-law called me over, asking me to quickly prepare for Xiao Wenzhou and Song Xie's wedding. I had other matters to attend to, so I politely refused. She changed her previously gentle demeanor and scolded me. You've been married for 3 years without bearing a child, do you still not allow my son to marry again? I lowered my head and replied, of course, it's allowed. It's just that I've been busy with affairs recently and haven't had any free time. Xiao Wenzhou marrying a secondary wife never required my permission. Why should I be the one to prepare for it? I was too lazy to argue, so I gently blocked her words. On the way back to the courtyard, I encountered Xiao Wenzhou again. He was wearing a moon-white casual robe, with bright eyes and sparse brows. Accompanying Song Xie, brewing tea in the backyard. She wore a red agate pearl hairpin, smiling as she poured tea for him. As she bent over, the hairpin didn't even sway. The steaming tea poured into the tasting cup, their gazes lingering in the swirling white mist. He became an official at a young age, often using the excuse of being busy with political affairs to stay in the study for a whole day. He had never done such a thing with me. I paused in my steps but didn't stop, quickly returning to the courtyard as if escaping. My thoughts were chaotic. I couldn't even focus on the account books. A fleeting glance in my youth trapped me for 3 years. Only today did I see clearly. Xia Wenzhou's affection for me was false. His feelings for Song Xia were genuine. I stared blankly at the account book. Until the maid Shui brought the booklet of my dowry. "Madam, it's been checked. Except for the part sold to arrange things for the master, a few items are missing." I suddenly looked up. Which items? Back then, my parents gave me too much dowry. I couldn't remember it all. She said, a pair of red agate pearl hairpins, a phoenix crown with kingfisher feathers. Red agate pearl hairpins. I had seen them on Song Xia's head. I rushed into Song Xia's courtyard. She was trying on the phoenix crown in front of a shiny bronze mirror. Her wedding with Xia Wenzhou was in 6 days. Too hasty. I thought Xia Wenzhou had long intended to marry her and prepared everything in advance. Unexpectedly, she went to the storeroom and took the phoenix crown my mother gave me. I was so angry my liver hurt. I reached up and took off her crown. The intricate hairpins were pulled out one by one and thrown to the ground. Some were tangled in her long hair, but I forcefully pulled them down. She inhaled sharply in pain, her hair disheveled, forced to look up and plead with me. "Please, let go, I'll take it off myself." I held my crown, coldly watching her. Song Xia fell from the chair to the ground, her hair messy. Several strands of hair were pulled out, falling to the ground. She was in a sorry state, looking at me with tearful eyes. "Madam, if you had said a word, I would have taken it off. Why do this?" I kept a cold face and kicked her lightly with my toe. "You took my things without asking, and you ask why?" She buried her head, just crying, like a pear blossom in the rain. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind me. Xia Wenzhou strode in, pushed me away, and pulled Song Xia into his arms. I staggered back 2 steps, instinctively holding onto the dressing table beside me to steady myself. The crown slipped from my hand, falling heavily to the ground. The red gemstone had faint cracks. He looked at me, his gaze filled with disgust and unfamiliarity. As if he had never known me. "Pei Susu, why do you make things difficult for her?" My grievances were stuck in my throat. In the end, I only choked out, "She took what my mother left for me." His voice turned cold, "It's just a headpiece, let her wear it for a few days, what's the harm? Would you rather break it than lend it to Xia? You have no support now, stop causing trouble." I stood there. Though spring had clearly arrived, I felt cold all over. Xia Wenzhou knew best how to hurt me. The gemstone on the crown cracked. Song Xia nestled in Xia Wenzhou's arms, frowning. She didn't like it anymore. He coaxed her softly. "I'll have another one made for you, it will definitely be ready for the wedding." I bent down, picked up the broken crown, and walked out alone. My heart felt clenched, making it hard to breathe. Just endure a few more days. Once everything is arranged, I'll leave. I exchanged most of my dowry for silver notes and saved them carefully. Xia Wenzhou ignored me for a day before coming to find me. He said my father had been demoted to a magistrate and would be heading to County L in 3 days to take up his post. My mother would go with him. As a married woman, I could stay in the capital and continue being an official's wife. Xia Wenzhou leaned against the door frame, his face shadowed in the dim light. "Pei Susu, if you hadn't married me, you'd have to go to that place with poisonous rain and wild smoke." I said nothing. If it weren't for my love at first sight with Xia Wenzhou, even if it was a member of the royal family, I could marry. Stable and smooth, why could I have to endure this anger? Seeing my silence, he took a bracelet from his sleeve and heavily placed it on my dressing table. "You deceived me. You sold it." He emphasized the word deceived heavily, sounding very dissatisfied. I said softly, "I didn't want it anymore, so I sold it." "Is that hard to understand?" His eyebrows showed a hint of anger. "The housekeeper said you've been selling parts of your dowry recently." He stared at me, his gaze seemed to burn a hole through me. "You're not wearing jewelry now, nor socializing with outsiders. What do you need so much money for?" I met his gaze and replied calmly. "My father was demoted, and the journey to County L is long, requiring arrangements everywhere." The words were true. Xia Wenzhou had no doubts. He then threw the items I sold a few days ago, one by one, onto my dressing table. Jewels clashed with a clear sound. His eyes were cold. You sold all the things I gave you. Pei Susu, are you angry with me? I bowed my head silently, tidied the beads of the hairpin, and put them into the dressing box. I will take them to County L to sell. His reach wouldn't be that far. Click went the lock. I said softly, no. I'm not angry with him. It's just that now, I don't need anything he gives. Xia Wenzhou's voice was cold, with a hint of mockery. My primary wife should have been Xia. You have no right to compete with her. I replied woodenly, I know. His primary wife should have been Song Xia. He and Song Xia were the true lovers. I've heard this many times. No need for him to emphasize it again. He said nothing more, falling into a brief silence. I continued with my task. Undoing the complex hairdo, braiding my hair myself. After going to County L, there would be no maid to do my hair. Perhaps seeing me behaving today. Xia Wenzhou's tone softened, such things should be left to the maid. I tugged at the corner of my lips. I replied perfunctorily, okay. Only 2 days remain until Xia Wenzhou and Song Xia's wedding. Bright red lanterns are hung under the eaves. Even my secluded courtyard has them. I can see them as soon as I open the window. The lanterns are connected by red silk, bearing Xia Wenzhou's handwriting. May the mandarin ducks entwine their necks for 1,000 years, wishing harmony for 100. May we be twin swans, never parted for 100 years. 3 years ago, when I married him, there was none of this. I gaze out the window. Song Xia appears at the end of the corridor. She is very happy today, her eyes curved in joy, walking gracefully towards me. The hem of her red dress resembles a swimming koi fish. She pauses at my door, softly calling me. Sister Pei, what hairstyle should I wear on the wedding day? She's wearing a newly tailored wedding dress, yet her hair is still unstyled, like an unmarried girl. I say, it's not your first marriage, why come to ask me about such trivial matters? Her expression stiffens, her face pales slightly. Her lips move, but she seems unable to speak. Xia Wenzhou appears from the side of the corridor at some point. His gaze is stern, speaking for her. Pei Susu, you are also a woman, why do you insist on provoking her with past events? Xia wanted to mend relations with you, that's why she asked me to come and personally ask you. Isn't she here to provoke me too? Xia Wenzhou doesn't see it. His eyes only have her. I stand at the threshold, looking down at her. Style it as you did when you married before. All right, I've told you, you can leave now. Her eyes redden, she steps back 2 paces. Weakly and helplessly, she falls into Xia Wenzhou's arms. Xia Wenzhou frowns. Threatening me. Pei Susu. You've already committed the 7 grounds for divorce. I could easily sever ties with you using a divorce letter. I look at his face. Bitterness fills my heart. I stiffly tug at the corner of my lips, suddenly laughing with tears. No need. Xia Wenzhou, I already have the divorce letter. He sneers, no need? If not for the upcoming celebration, I could write it for you immediately. He's accustomed to speaking harshly to me. Words come easily to him. I lean against the doorframe. Saying nothing. Watching him leave with Song Xia. Song Xia nestles in his arms, smiling at him. The lanterns hanging in the corridor cast a red glow on their profiles. A loving couple. I take a deep breath, calming myself, and tell the maid beside me. Prepare the carriage. Tomorrow, I need to visit the Ministry of Rights. I return to my room. Taking out the divorce letter from the dressing table. Signing my name with a brush. Pressing my fingerprint. All done in one go. The divorce process went smoothly. With both spouses' signatures and fingerprints. Now that the Pei family has declined, Xia Wenzhou's desire to distance himself from me seems justified. The people at the Ministry of Rights didn't ask much. I transferred my household registration back to the Pei family. When everything was settled and I returned to the residence, it was nearly noon. Tomorrow is the wedding banquet. Everyone in the residence is busy. No one pays attention to me. I return to my room, sorting out the things I want to take. There are items filling 2 rosewood boxes. I ask someone to send them out of the residence first. The banknotes are thin, easy to carry with me. I have communicated with my parents. Tomorrow morning, I can set out. The room has been tidied thoroughly, leaving no trace of my life here. At night, a maid from Xia Wenzhou's side brings me a set of formal attire. She bows her head and says, "The Lord asked me to deliver this to the lady. He personally chose the fabric 2 months ago. You can wear it to the ceremony tomorrow." The material is fine silk, shimmering in the reddish candlelight. The maid in the room accepts it. Yet she doesn't leave. Standing at the steps. The Lord asked me to relay a message to the lady. What he said yesterday was in anger, please don't take it to heart. His words are irrevocable. The pain remains. I pause, merely nodding, indicating I've heard. She cautiously raises her eyes, softly asking, "Does your lady have anything to say to the Lord?" The night wind is cool, making my eyes feel dry. I slowly say, "Nothing more. You should return quickly to report." She soon withdraws. That night, I sleep uneasily. Servants and maids come and go at the door. The lights remain bright all night. Xia Wenzhou is getting married. The servants will receive generous rewards. Everyone is happy, busy day and night without feeling tired. I got up very early. Just as the sky was beginning to lighten, I changed into inconspicuous plain clothes and donned a veil before heading out. The steward still recognized me and casually asked, "Madam Pei, what are you going out for?" "The wedding banquet will start in an hour. Song Xia is also going to be a madam." To distinguish between us, he addressed me with my surname. I simply smiled. "I'm going to the city gate to see my parents off. No need to inform the Lord." He bowed his head and said, "Yes." I got into the carriage and headed towards the city gate. The carriage rattled forward. The people attending the ceremony were heading towards the Xia residence, opposite to my direction. I lowered the curtain and stared blankly at my toes. 3 years ago, I married Xia Wenzhou, and we had a period of mutual respect and courtesy. Back then, I was naive. I thought that since Song Xia got married and he married me, life would just continue this way. I thought that as long as I treated him well, I could win his heart. Until a year ago, he received another letter from Song Xia. After marrying me, he rose rapidly in the officialdom, almost getting promoted every year. I loved him, and my father supported him. His life was smooth, his future promising, even more spirited than when he passed the imperial examinations. But Song Xia's life after marriage was not good. Her husband favored concubines over her, making her life difficult. At just 19, she was exhausted and gradually became emaciated. She couldn't help but pour her heart out to her childhood friend. The ink on that letter was almost smudged by her tears. She was supposed to marry Xia Wenzhou. They were supposed to be a young couple. Xia Wenzhou felt guilty towards her and resented me. From then on, he secretly supported her and distanced himself from me. I think I woke up too late. An hour later, I boarded the carriage to County L. My parents knew I had divorced Xia Wenzhou. They just sighed. Sighed that they didn't see the person clearly back then, making me suffer these hardships for nothing. I pressed my lips together, not daring to speak. It was my muddle-headedness. Mistake after mistake. The road to County L was long. But fortunately, I had money with me. So I could rent a larger boat when traveling by water, and make arrangements to hire a few fast horses at the post station. By the time I arrived at the official residence in County L, more than half a month had passed. I initially thought I wouldn't get used to it. But I only fell ill for a few days due to acclimatization, and then I adapted. Mother planted melons and fruits, and vegetables in the courtyard. The climate here is hot and humid, and everything grows quickly. Father's salary became very little. I saved the money I brought for emergencies. Then I learned to weave and sew clothes with mother. There are no soft silks or sparkling jewelry here. But I lived comfortably and happily. I could eat fruits not found in the capital and see sights not seen in the capital. Eating 300 lychees a day, willing to be a resident of County L for a long time. Gradually, I forgot the days of the past. Forgot the feelings of being with Xia Wenzhou. Forgot the days of mutual respect and rare affection with Xia Wenzhou. Forgot the long nights of being neglected by Xia Wenzhou, guarding the lonely lamp. Flowed away like water. Things seemed like a dream, leaving no trace. After returning from the wedding banquet of a colleague's son of father, Mother held my hand and frowned, asking, "I saw you were lost in thought just now. Are you thinking of that person again?" I was taken aback and honestly said, "I was thinking about how the poached chicken at the banquet was made. It was different from what you made before." She chuckled. "I'll let your father ask about it tomorrow." I hugged Mother's arm, acting spoiled and sticky, laughing and chatting happily. Before the wedding banquet began, Xia Wenzhou paused for a moment in front of Pei Susu's door. He wanted to say that the divorce was something he said unintentionally. He didn't mean it. He just wanted to tell her that now she only had him. He didn't know when it started. He got used to speaking harshly to Pei Susu. Xia Wenzhou actually regretted it a bit. Regretted speaking harshly to her, regretted always hurting her. There was no movement inside. He asked the butler, "Where is the madam?" The butler mistakenly thought he was asking about Song Xie and replied, "The madam is getting dressed." He said, "All right." Yesterday, Xia Wenzhou sent a new set of clothes to Pei Susu. It was fabric he had chosen 2 months ago and had someone make. Whenever he saw something good, he always wanted to give it to Pei Susu. The lake blue color suited her. He imagined how the clothes would look on her. Unconsciously, he smiled. But until the wedding banquet started, he didn't see Pei Susu. His eyelid twitched, and he asked the butler again, "Where is the madam?" The butler lowered his head fearfully. "Is it Madam Pei?" Madam Pei went to the city gate to see off Lord Pei this morning. The auspicious time had arrived. Xia Wenzhou didn't pay attention to Song Xie behind him. He rushed to the other courtyard, pushed the door open, and entered. The room was tidied up neatly, as if Pei Susu had never lived there. Only the set of lake blue new clothes was left in the room. No signs of being touched. Xia Wenzhou's heart felt empty, followed by a stabbing pain in his heart. It seemed he was going to lose Pei Susu. Xia Wenzhou went to the stable and took a fast horse, rushing out the door under the surprised gaze of the guests. Song Xie chased after him, holding up the hem of her wedding dress, stumbling and crying, "Wenzhou, don't leave me again." The wind was loud in his ears. He didn't hear her. She tripped over the threshold, unwillingly helped back by the maid. Xia Wenzhou, dressed in wedding attire, whipped the horse, chasing recklessly. The wind blew red blood vessels into his eyes. He watched helplessly as a simple carriage drove out of the city gate. He wanted to follow it out of the city, but was stopped. Xia Wenzhou was a capital official. Without an edict, he couldn't leave. He watched helplessly as the carriage went farther and farther, disappearing from view. Xia Wenzhou lost all strength and fell off the horse. County L was 1,000 miles away from the capital. In the future, it was likely they would never meet again in this life. He covered his face with both hands. Tears flowed from between his fingers. The sobbing was extremely painful. Everyone was shocked. The gatekeeper hurriedly helped him up. "Lord Xia, what happened?" He couldn't speak. Behind him, above the Xia residence, fireworks prepared a day in advance burst in the blue sky. This should have been his joyous day. But Pei Susu was gone. He didn't want anything anymore. It turned out Song Xie was just an obsession from his youth. He always thought he married Pei Susu due to pressure from power. Always thought he should hate her, should distance himself from her, should compensate Song Xie. In their interactions, he didn't dare say he had never been moved. Until today, Xia Wenzhou finally saw clearly. Losing Pei Susu was the real heart-wrenching pain. "I thought I would stay in County L for a long time. But 2 years later, my father was brought back by my uncle. My uncle wrote a letter to persuade him. His grievances had not yet been cleared, but he had some achievements in the past. And in County L, he had a reputation for diligent governance and loving the people, which is why His Majesty summoned him back to the capital. From now on, he must be cautious and not speak out of turn. It wasn't just my uncle who helped my father, but also Xia Wenzhou. When mentioning Xia Wenzhou, my father's expression was very calm, his brows and eyes unmoved. To him, my father was not only a former father-in-law but also a mentor. He cared about my father's affairs. It seemed only natural. At the beginning of spring, I returned to the capital with my parents. The old Pei residence was no longer habitable. My father took us to live in an old house in the suburbs. When Xia Wenzhou came to find me, the first spring rain fell in the suburbs. He stood with an oilpaper umbrella, pausing at the door. The rain was fine and dense, hanging between us. It was like a layer of mist. I remembered that first glance when we met. He stood among the crowd, tall and elegant, as if shrouded in mist, like pearls and jade. But now, as the years passed, he had also become thin. His demeanor settled, like an ancient well without ripples. Seeing him, my heart no longer raced as it did before. I stood under the eaves, tucked my hands into my sleeves, and asked him with lowered eyes. "What brings you here, Lord Xia?" His voice was dry. "Susu. I didn't intend to divorce you. That was just words spoken in anger. I was upset that you sold the things I gave you." I looked into his eyes and said softly, "Xia Wenzhou, you've said such words twice. The first time, I deceived myself and hid the divorce papers. The second time, I finally made up my mind to leave Xia Wenzhou." A trace of surprise and confusion crossed his brows and eyes. He seemed to not remember. After all, he was drunk at the time. And that incident had happened 5 years ago. I calmly recounted to him. "5 years ago, you were drunk. You said it was all my fault, letting you watch Song Xia marry someone else. The divorce papers were written for me at that time. 2 years ago, I used that paper to divorce you. Now we have no ties whatsoever. If you want to discuss matters with my father, I can pass a message for you." His face suddenly turned extremely pale. His lips moved, barely uttering a few words, his voice very light. "I came to see you, Susu. Then there's nothing more to say." I took a few steps back and closed the door, shutting everything outside. The servants said. Xia Wenzhou did not leave. He stood there all night, until Song Xia came to find him. On the third day after returning to the capital, I happened to catch the flower festival. I went out and joined the wives of my father's colleagues for an outing to admire the flowers. Song Xia was also there. She didn't look happy. Wearing ordinary jewelry, she sat alone on the side. No one spoke to her. Xia Wenzhou had made a big fuss about bringing her back, making many people aware. She was entangled with a married man. Her past was no secret. Most people didn't like her, ridiculing her coldly, saying she drove me away. In such lively occasions, she could only sit in the corner, enduring the cold shoulder. I ignored her, lowered my head, and continued cutting the 5-colored paper in my hands. Madame Yi whispered in my ear. She went from being the wife of a small county official to the wife of a 5th-rank official in the Ministry of Personnel. What more could she be dissatisfied with? I thought for a moment. Perhaps that's not what she wants. I raised my hand and handed Madame Yi a small silver pair of scissors. She sat down and joined me in cutting the 5-colored paper. Then we glued the paper to flower branches to worship the flower god, praying for the blooming of all flowers. Madame Yi couldn't sit still. She only cut for a while before going to chase butterflies. Song Xia walked to my side. Her voice was light, filled with resentment. "Pei Susu, it's all your fault." I was a bit confused. Huh? Blame me again? Though I'm still young and my spine is good, I can't bear so much blame. She said, "If it weren't for you wanting to marry Xia Wenzhou, I could have married him 5 years ago. I wouldn't have suffered those hardships. His heart wouldn't have had anyone else. We wouldn't have reached the point of looking at each other with disgust." I rubbed my temples. My head was starting to hurt. "Then why don't you blame him?" She was taken aback. I said, "He, as a person, even if he didn't marry me, he would marry someone else. When he became a 5th-rank official in the Ministry of Personnel, he was only 22 years old. That's a position many people strive for half their lives without reaching. The top scorer of the same year is still beneath him. If he wanted to marry you, no one could stop him, but he couldn't let go of all this. You should be glad he married me." I'm an easy-to-handle soft persimmon. If it were someone else, they would have dealt with you and him together. The moment you wrote the first letter to Sia Wonjo. Actually, when Sia Wonjo helped her divorce, I was happy for her. Happy she escaped from the hell. Later, I began to dislike her. She was just as clueless as I was before. I slowly finished speaking, dropped the scissors and prepared to leave. Her eyes turned red. Standing alone outside the flower bushes, tears flowed uncontrollably. I had a great time playing around. When I returned home at dusk, my mother told me that several families had sent matchmakers, wanting to arrange a marriage. I said, I don't want to marry again. I've been through it once already. Marriage doesn't bring anything good, only more responsibilities. You have to manage the household, support your husband, and worry about having children. If you don't choose the right person, you'll suffer a lot. Being alone is much more carefree and comfortable. My mother respected my opinion and politely declined the matchmakers one by one. At home, I helped my mother with household chores and occasionally went out with friends. Life was quite enjoyable. Sia Wonjo often sent me things. Sometimes it was rare little trinkets. Sometimes it was long letters of affection. I returned them all, unopened. On an ordinary night, Song Sia came to see me. She had become thin and haggard. The wind was chilly outside, so I let her into the house. She cried and apologized to me. I was terribly wrong. I was the one who wronged you back then. I looked at her calmly and handed her a handkerchief to wipe her tears. She said, Sia Wonjo only kept her around, often neglecting her. In the mansion, no one talked to her, and she felt stifled every day. Years ago, it was Sia Wonjo who broke his promise to marry her. Now, it's also Sia Wonjo who is neglecting her. She sobbed, I hate him. I listened with my chin in my hand, unsure how to judge their love-hate entanglement. Whatever, just don't come to hate me. Song Sia seemed to have not confided in anyone for a long time. She talked to me for a long time, all by herself. I felt drowsy listening to her. Finally, she asked me, can you forgive me? I was the one who competed with you, took your things, and made you sad. I know I was wrong. I thought for a moment and said, all right. When you fix my phoenix crown, I'll forgive you. Half a year later, Song Sia returned my phoenix crown. The cracked ruby from before was replaced with one of better quality. The tiny rice pearls were glued on by her, one by one. All the scratches had disappeared. It was quite nice. At least during the half year she spent fixing the crown. She wasn't bored and wasn't thinking about whether Sia Wonjo loved her every day. During this period, two major events occurred. The first was that my father was cleared of false charges and reinstated to his official position. The second was that Sia Wonjo was punished due to political struggles and exiled to County L. I wasn't surprised. From the moment he entered the political arena, he rose rapidly, too smoothly. He inevitably remained somewhat naive, lacking caution, and prone to making mistakes. Before his departure, he came to see me again. Just like in the beginning. I stood on the high steps of the minister's residence, looking at him. He stood below the steps, his posture restrained. When he looked at me, he had to look up. I'm going to County L, and I might be there for many years. Does this count as atonement? His voice was hoarse. I didn't like hearing it. I said, it doesn't count. You were careless yourself, which led to this situation, and it has nothing to do with me. I turned and left. Song Sia also had to go to County L with Sia Wonjo. She had no friends in the capital. Only I went to see her off. She sat in the simple carriage, lifted the curtain to look at me, her eyes dim. I knew what she was worried about. County L had always been rumored to be a place of miasma and barbarism. Going there, who knows if she could ever return. I said, you don't need to worry, County L is fine. It's just that the road is a bit far. But you can spend more of Sia Wonjo's money, get a bigger carriage, and make yourself more comfortable. County L has plenty of fruits, very delicious, mostly unavailable in the capital. She curved her lips into a smile. Gentle and radiant. Just like when I first met her. A tear fell from the corner of her eye again. Thank you, Susu. I was in the capital, studying and learning. I read many books of wisdom and also learned acupuncture and woodblock prints. My father didn't always stay in the position of minister. Later, he requested an external assignment. He took me to different counties. We saw all the prosperity of the world. I would no longer be bothered by those trivial matters. Xia Wenzhou also made some achievements in County L. But there was no one in the court to speak for him. He was later transferred to many places but never managed to return to the capital. The last time he came to see me before leaving the capital was our final meeting. A few years later, I received a letter from Song Xia. She had been married to Xia Wenzhou for 10 years and finally decided to divorce. She was different from me. She had no support and could only rely on Xia Wenzhou. 3 years ago, she followed Xia Wenzhou to an assignment in County C. She was always clever and quickly learned to weave brocade. With a skill to make a living, she was able to leave Xia Wenzhou and become self-reliant. I think this is good. There are still many years left in life. We can all live for ourselves once more.